There comes a moment in every toxic dynamic when the power quietly shifts. It is not loud, it is not dramatic. It happens the instant you stop reacting, stop explaining, stop shrinking to make someone else comfortable. And when a narcissistic person senses that shift, when they realize you are no longer pliable, no longer predictable, no longer feeding their need for control, they do not suddenly grow or self-reflect. Instead, they reach for one last tactic. A dirty one. This is the phase people rarely talk about, the moment when your strength becomes a threat, not because you are attacking, but because you are no longer available. Your boundaries expose their emptiness, your calm exposes their chaos, and that is intolerable to someone whose identity depends on dominance and distortion. So they escalate, they provoke, they rewrite history, they test whether they can still hook you through guilt, fear, or confusion. This is not a sign that you are weak. It is proof that you are finally strong enough to disrupt the illusion they rely on. Today is about recognizing that trick for what it is, not internalizing it, not personalizing it, and certainly not letting it pull you backward. When you understand this pattern, the fear dissolves, the confusion lifts, and what remains is clarity, self-trust, and a grounded sense of power that no manipulation can touch. When your strength becomes visible, something fundamental shifts in a narcissistic dynamic. This is not the loud, obvious strength of confrontation or revenge. It is the quiet power of self-trust, boundaries, and emotional independence. And that kind of strength is deeply threatening to someone who survives on control. When they can no longer dominate your reality, they often reach for a strategy designed not to engage you directly, but to destabilize you from the outside. This is where the smear campaign begins. A smear campaign is not about truth, it is about survival. When a narcissistic person feels exposed by your growth, they experience it as a loss of identity. Your calm makes their chaos visible. Your consistency highlights their contradictions. Rather than facing that discomfort, they attempt to destroy the source of the threat by rewriting the narrative around you. Suddenly, you are framed as cold, unstable, selfish, or cruel. The very qualities that helped you survive are twisted into accusations meant to isolate you and erode your confidence. What makes this especially painful is that it often comes from places you once considered safe. Friends, family, colleagues, or community members may be pulled into the distortion. The goal is not just to damage your reputation, but to provoke a reaction. If you defend yourself, they can point to your emotional response as proof of their story. If you stay silent, they assume they are winning. This double bind is intentional. It is meant to exhaust you. But here is the deeper truth. Smear campaigns only emerge when control is slipping. They are a last-ditch effort to reclaim dominance through perception, when direct manipulation no longer works. A person who truly has power does not need to convince others that you are the problem. The urgency and intensity of the smear is evidence of fear, not strength. In your life, this phase is often the most disorienting because it challenges your sense of reality. You may question whether you are being misunderstood, whether you should explain yourself, whether staying quiet makes you complicit. This is where self-anchoring becomes essential. Your healing does not require universal agreement. It requires alignment with your own values and lived truth. Choosing not to engage is not weakness. It is strategic self-protection. You begin to understand that your integrity is not built in public opinion, but in private consistency. Over time, patterns reveal themselves. People who are paying attention notice the discrepancy between who you are and the version being sold. And even if some never do, your peace is no longer dependent on their perception. When you continue to live grounded, boundaried, and unreactive, the smear loses oxygen. What was meant to break you becomes confirmation that your strength is real, sustainable, and untouchable. When someone has relied on manipulation for control, the moment you stop playing along is when their reality begins to fracture. Their strategies are often subtle at first, a misplaced word, a half-truth, a claim that seems designed to make you doubt yourself. But when it becomes clear that you cannot be controlled, they escalate to a classic move, claiming victimhood. They recast themselves as wronged, hurt, or misunderstood, while reframing your strength and autonomy as aggression or cruelty. This tactic is designed to make those around you question the truth, and more insidiously, to make you question yourself. The danger of this strategy is that it distorts perception. Friends, colleagues, even family may be drawn into the narrative if it is convincing enough. Their goal is not reconciliation or mutual understanding. It is to destabilize you by turning reality inside out, to create doubt where once there was clarity. This is why recognizing the pattern is so crucial. When you see that victim card being played, you begin to understand it is not about fairness, it is about control. Their narrative is a defense mechanism against the loss of influence you represent. In your own life, the appearance of this tactic can feel like an attack on your credibility and character. You may wrestle with confusion, frustration, or guilt. The natural human impulse is to defend yourself, explain, or justify. But the moment you engage fully, you step into the very trap that was set. The person relying on this manipulation gains the satisfaction of reaction, the illusion of moral high ground, and the continued sense of control they crave. True resilience in this situation comes from a different approach. It begins with grounding yourself in reality, in your lived experience, and in the knowledge that your autonomy and clarity are not dependent on anyone's approval. You do not need to convince others of your truth. You only need to maintain alignment with your own principles and actions. Silence in the face of distortion is not surrender. It is a form of self-protection, a refusal to participate in a false narrative. Over time, this approach has a powerful effect. Without your energy to fuel their story, the tactic loses potency. People who are paying attention will notice inconsistencies, gaps, and contradictions in the narrative being spun. The person attempting to rewrite reality is left with a hollow performance, while your calm, consistency, and integrity stand as proof of strength. In life, being aware of this dynamic allows you to rise above it. It empowers you to recognize that the playing of the victim card is never about truth, but about fear. Fear that you are no longer accessible to their influence. Fear that their control is gone. Fear that your power is undeniable and cannot be contained. When someone who thrives on control realizes that their usual tactics no longer work, they often resort to provocation. This is the subtle, and sometimes not so subtle, attempt to pull you back into a state of reactivity, where they can regain a sense of power. The provocation can take many forms: a cutting comment disguised as a joke, an unexpected accusation, a situation deliberately engineered to trigger old patterns of fear or anger. It is not about engagement or resolution. It is about eliciting an emotional response that temporarily shifts the balance back in their favor. In your life, these provocations can feel confusing and destabilizing. You might notice a sudden surge of anger, doubt, or anxiety, where none existed before. Your mind races, analyzing motives, replaying interactions, and wondering if you overreacted. This is exactly what provocation is designed to do. It seeks to fragment your clarity and pull you into a cycle of defense, apology, or justification. Recognizing this pattern is the first step toward reclaiming your power. When you understand that the provocation is not a reflection of reality but a reflection of fear, you begin to see it as a signal rather than a threat. Resisting the pull requires presence and grounding. It demands a conscious choice not to react in the ways that feed their need for control. Silence can become your most powerful response. Walking away, redirecting focus, or simply acknowledging the provocation internally without acting on it can neutralize its intended effect. This is where strength transforms from reactive to resilient. Strength is not about confrontation or proving a point. It's about maintaining your equilibrium and refusing to give energy to manipulation. Provocation often escalates because it is a last-ditch effort. The more they feel control slipping, the more extreme or persistent the attempts can become. Yet each act of provocation is paradoxically evidence of your power. It confirms that your boundaries, your calm, and your refusal to engage are effective. You are no longer the person who can be easily destabilized. You are no longer playing the game on their terms. In this stage of your journey, every provocation becomes a test of your resilience, an opportunity to witness your growth in real time. The temptation to respond is strong, but true strength is demonstrated by measured composure and clarity of mind. Over time, repeated provocation without reaction erodes the manipulator's influence. Their energy is expended while yours is preserved, allowing you to operate from a place of integrity, confidence, and inner peace. Understanding provocation as a weapon transforms the way you experience conflict. It shifts the focus from external chaos to internal mastery, from being pulled into reaction to standing firmly in your truth, from being a participant in manipulation to being an observer of it, and from temporary agitation to enduring clarity and freedom. There is a moment in every encounter with someone who thrives on manipulation when their last desperate move reveals more about their fear than your weakness. This final dirty trick is often dramatic, aggressive, or confusing. It might look like sudden anger, a smear, a provocation, or an attempt to make you doubt yourself. At first, it can feel like a storm descending out of nowhere, as if the chaos you left behind is now trying to pull you back in. And yet, this very act is the clearest evidence that you have already won. In your life, this final tactic appears when your strength has become undeniable. Your boundaries are firm, your calm is unshakable, and your clarity is visible. You are no longer reacting to manipulation, and your independence has stripped away the tools they relied on for control. This is when a narcissistic person feels exposed. Their strategies no longer elicit fear, guilt, or compliance. The intensity of their last effort is a reflection of the loss of influence they once had. It is important to see this clearly. The more extreme their tactics, the more proof that you have reclaimed your power. Their final trick is not about you. It is a mirror of their own panic and insecurity. They are attempting to regain control over something that is no longer theirs to manipulate. This is why the strategy often feels urgent, irrational, or personal. You may be tempted to analyze, explain, or defend yourself, but their goal is to provoke reaction. The absence of your engagement neutralizes their effort and exposes the emptiness behind it. Your victory is not measured by their downfall, their exposure, or the acknowledgement of others. Your victory is measured by your alignment with yourself. By maintaining boundaries, clarity, and composure, you demonstrate that freedom and peace are stronger than fear and manipulation. Their attempts to pull you back are a signal that you have moved beyond the reach of their influence. This recognition transforms what could feel like attack into affirmation. The final dirty trick, then, is paradoxically liberating. It confirms that your growth, resilience, and self-trust are effective. It demonstrates that the manipulator's reliance on chaos as a control mechanism has failed. The very act that once might have intimidated you now serves as a marker of triumph. Each provocation, smear, or manipulation attempt is evidence that your calm is unassailable, that your boundaries are respected internally even if not externally, and that your independence is intact. When you understand this dynamic, fear dissolves. The storm of their last trick becomes a reminder of your power rather than a source of anxiety. You no longer measure yourself against their actions, but against your own values and integrity. Every attempt they make to destabilize you reinforces the truth that your strength has shifted the balance. Their desperation is a sign, not of your weakness, but of the freedom you have claimed, the clarity you maintain, and the unshakable presence you embody. The truth is, the more a narcissistic person tries to manipulate, provoke, or distort reality, the clearer it becomes that their power over you has ended. Every smear, every false accusation, every attempt to provoke an emotional reaction is not evidence of your failure, but of your strength. They are reacting to a reality they can no longer control, a reality where your calm, clarity, and boundaries define the space. Your victory is not in confrontation or revenge. It is in the quiet confidence of knowing who you are, in the unwavering alignment with your values, and in the refusal to let someone else's chaos dictate your peace. This is your freedom. It is the place where fear loses its grip and manipulation no longer resonates. The final dirty trick, once meant to destabilize, becomes proof that you have already won. Their desperation is a mirror of your growth, your resilience, and your self-trust. You do not need validation from anyone else. Your power is inherent, untouchable, and enduring. Walk forward with that certainty. Hold your boundaries. Maintain your calm. Let every attempt to provoke serve as a reminder of your strength. Your freedom, your clarity, and your peace are the ultimate victory, and nothing can take that away.